I suspect we'll take
All right.
5.5 minutes.
I suspect we're only going to need one of these.
Whole meeting
So,
gonna take 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I think this is going to take.
Somebody's not
Well,
Luigi, we're done.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're
are you in Jabber?
Are you crazy?
no, but I can.
Yeah, just to check that. Things are on. It's a bit too early for Europeans.
Yeah.
I don't know, more than the US.
Awesome. We have a there we go. Murray has volunteered to scribe the jabbers. The blue sheets are on their way around.
We should really just have all the clocks on the wall, like we're in a newsroom.
Do we have a volunteer to take notes? Oh, okay. Yeah, I doubt there'll be many notes. There's probably 2 or 3 things we need to decide today. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the extra session. Bright and early after a night of socializing. We have one of these things, totally unreadable, the note well. Everyone has noted the note well. Excellent. I'm Bron, by the way.
We do have some remote people.
We have 3 people remotely on Meet Echo, plus a very small crowd in the room here. We have an hour, which I doubt we're going to need. We're a brand new group. I'm fairly new at this chairing business, and nobody has come back to me with requests for things to do today. So I've put together a rather optimistic agenda. I doubt we'll need all of this time for all the things, but you never know.
Yeah, don't rely on me for Jabber, my client's not working.
All right, excellent. If you're on Jabber, then
Somebody else will.
send us an email or something. We all have email, right? Thank you. John's going to do the Jabber. So,
Jabber just came up.
roughly what we're trying to do here is extend IMAP and Civ with new things that we need. There are already a ton of extensions. For something completely unrelated, was looking back at an issue a couple of years ago where Microsoft Exchange implemented the move extension and took the untagged response to be don't put anything in front of the response at all. So there was no star response. It was just the response blattered on a line, which broke clients. We do have a fairly high bar to get to for clients to be worth clients implementing anything that we define here, because it has to be perfect or there's no point. And even then they need to support both the old and the new until every server's updated. So I looked at what the 3 things that would justify doing an extension are. I think either the world's changing and we want to follow it, which the 64-bit extension's for. Message sizes are getting bigger, mailboxes are getting bigger. We want to support more than 32 bits, and architectures now support bigger numbers. If multiple vendors are doing the same thing, like X vendor message ID, it's worth standardizing that so that everyone's at least doing the same thing the same way. And finally, for JMAP compatibility, things like mailbox unique ID, where there's an ID that stays with the mailbox when it gets renamed, it would be good to implement that in a way that can be seen by IMAP as well. So have a standard way by IMAP to see those things. We have 4 drafts so far in the extra working group, and 2 more that are ready to be uploaded, but I just haven't done it yet. And does anyone want to speak to these first few people on Jabber who've written them? Deathly silence. I believe List My Rights, Civ FCC, and Civ Special Use are all pretty much ready to go. They've been implemented and tested. Has anyone got any queries or questions about them? Sure. So List My Rights when you do a list command, you can specify extra things to be returned. And if you say return my rights, then it just spits out as if you'd done a my rights on each mailbox directly after the list command. Convenient for clients that want to show whether a mailbox is read-only or whether you can write to it as part of they can just do a single list command and get that as part of the response. We actually use this one at Fastmail to tell whether a mailbox is writable or not. It's quite trivial to just add one more item to the return and you get exactly the same response as you get to my rights. It was very easy to implement. Civ FCC and Civ Special Use, I believe we've implemented but aren't using yet.
No.
We want to use Civ FCC for ourselves, so we've looked at it. The idea of taking a copy of a reject message when you send it.
Oh, yeah.
And Alexi will talk about IMAP 64-bit.
Yeah, 64-bit. No, it's a lie.
You've got to go up to the. You've got to go up to the microphone. I've transcribed your slides.
Okay. Yes, 64-bit is a lie. I stole 1 bit from you.
What's a bit among friends?
Right. That's the same thing we've done in extensions like Constore. We realized on certain platforms that people have native signed types that fit 64-bit, so we better not use the highest bit, basically. We can rename the capability, but I don't think 64-bit just sounds better.
Great.
So as far as I remember, there were 2 open issues, which I think both of them you can close. But so one was actually explaining that we really meant 64-3 bits and why this is done. So I added a sentence explaining the background. And the other one is I thought the document was really straightforward, and then somebody went and did overview of all other extensions and all interactions between things, and found a bunch of stuff.
He's on me, actually.
So I went through all of these. I believe I incorporated all the relevant ABNF updates. Couple of comments. One is Quota RFC is a really old RFC. It doesn't even use 5324 ABNF. So it's a separate question. Maybe we should just update it anyway. But yeah, quotas are definitely can be more than 32 bits, so that's quite sensible to update.
Quota does a weird thing where it is in kilobytes rather than bytes.
Right. So yeah, we do have a little bit extra, but I think mailboxes are still,
It would be much nicer to do everything in 63-bit bytes than have weird multiplications.
Now you're talking. Yeah.
Now we're really talking rewriting it or changing the name of the quota command. Yeah.
Well, it's actually, well, I don't know, maybe even like 10 years ago, Dave Cridland and I we had a quota update draft which expired. So I can talk to Dave and bring it back to life. It doesn't do what you were talking about, but it was trying to add a bunch of other type of quotas, that we can think of. Maybe it was
4 quota types, I think, that we use at Fastmail. So there's message size, obviously. There's also message count, folder count,
right
in the quota root.
Yep.
And annotation storage as well. A couple of them
is folder
names. Folder count was an interesting one.
Yeah.
People wanted in Cyrus, they wanted to have a configuration option that was the maximum number of folders that a user could have, just because folders don't cost quota, and so you could create a billion folders under your account and totally gum up the server.
So that was sort of denial of service
It was a denial of
protection.
service
Oh, right.
protection.
Okay.
And we
Fair enough.
decided that rather than having it as per server level config, putting it in quota would then allow you to create exceptions for users that hit your reasonable limit. So it's in quota instead.
Okay. Well, it looks like at least you are interested in doing something with quota.
Yeah, I think so.
So, and you can make can do everything. So
Yeah, that's right.
It's fine.
yeah.
Got minions of 4.
Okay, well, we'll talk offline about, I'll try to find the draft. I don't know how useful it is, but it might at least use new ABNF so somebody can take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the other comment was, I think I made everything I can think of as being 63-bit, except for body part number. I don't think we want that many.
No.
So I thought that was quite safe to just leave it as is. So, but if I missed anything, let me know. One editorial comment I have in the document is that I have one big section with, pieces of different ABNF updates. Do people want it to be split by each extension? I have comments in the, I don't know, it's just, if people find this to be useful, I can rearrange stuff. If people are happy the way it is, then I think it's done.
This is Barry. Not about this in particular, but in general, I have found it useful to have both the grammar in context and a summary of the grammar at the end. So I know that's, you don't want to have, well, I want to have a collected, not summary, collected grammar at the end,
right,
but have the grammar also in the sections that it applies to. Now, I know it's bad to have the same thing twice because that invites having them differ. But so I'm just saying, and I don't feel strongly about it in this case.
Yeah, the issue is that most of the things are reusing message size element, whether it's an append or in various fetch responses. So there were a bit of generic cleanup to the main spec. And then other things are sort of separate and they have comments. So I can repeat it, but for the, it's only like 4 pages document. I'm not even sure it's worth it.
Yeah.
That's short.
Yeah. All right, the last 2 I have here are the save date and status equals size, which I haven't uploaded to Extra yet, and no one else has either. There was some discussion there about whether we should be using metadata or using per message annotations for some of these things rather than defining new top-level data items for everything. That question, I don't think, was entirely resolved. Yeah. So save date is the date that a message was moved into a folder, I think. Remember, we actually have the author of these on Meheco, if you want to speak at all.
Is it Stefan?
Let me bring him up on the screen. I put notes in here about what they were. Yeah, Stefan for save date. And Stefan for status equals size. Did you want to speak about either of these, Stefan?
He's on Jabber, he's talking. So
Oh, okay.
I told him to get a new Meheco speaker.
Yep.
There he comes.
All right. Now I'll press a button and you should be able to talk.
There you go.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Oh, there's a bit of a delay. So what would you like to know?
Can you tell us about save date extension?
Well, in the current IMAP world, there's only the date at which the message was received into the mail store in general. And if you copy a message or move it elsewhere, that date is retained. And the save date is a date where the message is stored in a particular folder. And you could use that, for instance, to do automatic message expiry. So if you want to remove messages from trash, you need to know when it was saved in the trash folder, not when it was first received. That's the main distinction between the two.
Okay, sounds useful.
This is absolutely something that we want for Cyrus IMAP as well, and something that we would enable as a feature at Fastmail as soon as we have it implemented. It's been in our to-do list for a while.
Yeah, well, in
This is
DOFCON,
Barry.
in DOFCON it's implemented already, but it's not announced as an actual capability. So we support it implicitly, but nobody actually knows. Some web mail clients use it, and actually it's a bad thing because there's no negotiation of capabilities there.
This is Barry. So what Bron just said is something that's very important to me. I want to make sure that any documents that we accept in this working group and work on are things that preferably more than two, but at least a few implementers want them. We had this issue when in another working group that was doing IMAP, collected IMAP updates, IMAP extensions, where some of them were just pet projects of one team or one person. And I just want to make sure that we have some general use, general interest stuff going on.
All right, so I will upload save date. Unless there's any changes you want to make to it, I'll upload that to the extra queue straight after this meeting.
Neil Jenkins. I just wanted to check. I think you already had an open issue of where is this saved, and should it just be an annotation or metadata? That I think is an important question.
That was the more general question for both of these drafts, is whether it becomes another fetch item or whether it becomes a per message annotation. Since we have this extensibility feature already as a standard, should we be using it or should we just be adding new fetch items? That's a more general philosophical question for this group.
Yeah, Barry again. Being as we have list extended, I'd like to use it. So for things that are actually extensions, I'd rather not overload annotations for that. I'd rather make the extension also extend the list extensions to do that. Stefan, can you tell us about the other one also, the size? The status SQL size?
Yeah, well, basically you can query the size of a mailbox implicitly in the list command, and the advantage of that is that you can query it at once if you use the list extended way of doing things. And for instance, with the quota extension, you cannot query the size of a particular folder. You can only query it for a particular quota route. So that doesn't say you have one folder. You can get it from multiple folders as a total, but not for individual folders. So if you want to present certain statistics.
And in this context, size means number of messages?
In this case,
okay.
it's the total
Byte
storage
size.
size. Total, number of octets.
Byte size, okay. From a process point of view, we should probably post something before you have him create working group drafts for this.
Yeah, it was
Post to the mailing list
a while ago.
and okay, if
You can do a formal call for.
right, I wouldn't even do a call for it. I would just do a call for objections.
Yeah.
Just say if no one objects to this by Friday, whatever, I'm going to approve it. And
Yeah.
Okay.
If the memory doesn't fail me, my update with Dave Cridland of a quota draft might include status size. So I mean, I don't particularly want to edit it. I just saying, you know,
Yeah.
we need to make sure that it's
Again,
only described once.
He's going to speak that now.
Yeah, Neil Jenkins, I was just going to say something very similar to Alexi. It sounds very related to quota. And if you're making changes to how you can fetch quota, maybe they need to be considered together so you can both see how much quota you have and also for each of those things, whatever stats you want on what's being used now.
Have another sort of extension in this, similar to status size. Some clients only show the number of undeleted messages. There is a way to query number of unseen messages, I believe, but there is no way of seeing like unseen, undeleted messages in a mailbox. So maybe we need another status. But then it goes into a question, you know, do we ever want to do this for other flags, flag combinations?
Right.
So I wanted to just quickly on this one question I have about status equals size is what is the size of? Is it the size of the number of bytes used just by the RFC822 messages? Does it include metadata overhead? Does it include file system overhead? Does it include per message annotations? How many different sizes are there?
And while we're getting to that question, does it have to be fast? Some mailboxes are stored in one big file and you immediately know the size. I used to have a server where each message was stored in a separate file and computing the size would take a while. So and I haven't read the draft, so I don't know if it says anything about it, but if it's expected to be fast, the draft needs to say that so that implementers don't do the wrong thing.
I must say that it is currently not considered in the draft. So we should discuss that a little more later, I guess.
Fastmail interface again fetches this because SARAS-IMAP has a metadata response, which is folder size for each folder. And when we are creating here's your quota usage page, we fetch that metadata item for each folder.
Pre-calculated?
Yes, pre-calculated, stored in the header. I'm just trying to pull up the draft here, but possibly no, status equals size is unsearchable. They're both far too common words. All right. See if I had anything else at all. No, that is all I've got noted here.
We can take Stephen out of the speaker.
Yeah. Right, so turn you off. This is a big red button. So the other things that I put in notes for were XGM message ID and XGM thread ID. Multiple servers have some kind of concept of a consistent message ID that remains with a message when it gets copied or moved, if it's the same message content that keeps the same ID. And many servers also have a concept of a thread ID where they have calculated that messages are related and given them the same ID of some sort. The last time we discussed this, the big debate was whether to use 63-bit numbers and have the server do magic around them, or whether to use a longer opaque string and then be able to use something like a UUID to store it. I don't know whether we want to go as far as the Microsoft ActiveSync protocol where you can have kilobytes of data as the unique ID for a message. Apparently it's quite painful to deal with. I haven't tried it myself. But I think certainly allowing the 70 bytes of a pop UIDL would mean we could have compatibility between anything that uses UUIDs or UIDLs. Right. That would be my suggestion there.
Strings will certainly be more generic.
Yeah, Neil Jenkins. Again, JMAP, they're strings, and I think definitely want to be strings. So it would make sense to me if that could be the same across both more easily.
Yeah, let's double check this on the mailing list. You know, I think we have happy room agreement, but let's ask everybody else that the people are okay with that.
Throw that one to the mailing list. We need someone to write it.
a reasonable length restriction is also a perfectly good thing to have. I agree. You don't want the kilobytes of data for an ID. That's,
I think it might be implementation / security consideration of, we don't have to specify a number, but we should recommend that people shouldn't put megabytes of data there.
I think it's reasonable to specify a minimum number. Say it needs to be able to fit a minimum number that a client must be able to handle.
Yeah, that's fine.
Barry, I will note that we have with save data and status equals size 6 documents already. I would suggest that we process those or many of those before we add any more.
Yeah, I think we have 3 that are pretty much ready to move on. So
Even 4, I think.
yeah.
So, yeah, I was talking to Bron with my AD hat on that we should just write shepherding write-ups and but yeah, I think a good point. Let's officially declare them done and move on to other things and not try to do like 7 documents in parallel.
Yep. Speaking of things in parallel, is there anything else that people think we should be putting on our radar to look at next?
Well, there is this IMAP 4F2 document that I promised. So the only thing I need is basically I need to unexpire it and post on the working group name if people want. And then this probably will take a bit longer.
Yeah. The decision of what's in and what's out is...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with my editor hat on, as much as I like to make this decision, I think this needs a discussion of the working group so there will be some iteration on things too. Hopefully what's already have is close to agreeable set of things, and I think we might need to add 2 or 3 more little things. So like, for example, 64-bit message sizes might be folded into it right away just because it's, it's nice to do it if we're doing any upgrade anyway.
Yep.
This is Barry. A few years ago, I had proposed, along with somebody from Google, a special use attribute called important. And I'm looking at the draft now. It sort of got dropped. I wonder if we should pick it up again. So what the draft said was that this defines a new special use attribute, important, to designate a mailbox that will hold messages that are considered important for the user by some externally defined criteria. And it corresponds to Gmail's little important
Gmail already
thing.
Produced a special use response important.
Yeah, so
for a while.
Right, and that was a result of our working on this, but we never got the draft through. So should we pick it up with this and do that?
Should we just do, as popped up on the screen here, extend special use RFC to define a registry of special use values rather than...
This draft defines the registry as well.
Oh, excellent. Let's pick that up then.
Okay, I will post it to the mailing list.
Great. I'll do this one later. Informational RFC, the Cyrus Replication Protocol. It was defined to be able to replicate anything which is the IMAP data model.
I have it.
So
and
I'd like to document it properly.
why Stefan doesn't step up to the speaker queue, I don't know, but he posts, I will channel him from Jabber. Maybe Civ email address internationalization. Civ RFC predates much of the EAI work, possible topic this working group could address. And then Ken Murchison, who also appears to be in MeetEcho and isn't getting in the speaker queue, says, with respect to Civ FCC, Ned Fried was opposed to allowing FCC to be used with reject because you're essentially lying about the disposition. Is this worth discussing?
I think we hashed it out fairly well on the mailing list at the time. My argument being that if the user wants to lie, then the server should allow them to do it. That was the opposing argument there. I don't know if we reached an agreement either way on that. And we don't have Ned here to ask.
Yeah, maybe we should follow up on the mailing list. My sort of thought is most of Civ actions will still result in server-side logging. So, I mean, there will still be a trace. This is almost an extended version of logging, you know, of what you actually generated. So,
and if you're capturing messages before they hit Civ, regardless of what your action is, then
right,
you've kept a copy.
Okay. But I think we have an action item just to verify this on the mailing list.
Yeah.
Discuss with Ned's objection about whether the server is allowed to lie about, you know, that.
About taking a copy of the message, but still rejecting as if it had not received the message.
We say rejected it, but we also save the copy. So is it okay? That's what he calls lying. Is it okay, basically?
And this is FCC. So.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, sorry, you started talking about Cyrus replication protocol. I think we sort of distracted you a little bit.
We will write that up as an informational document. I don't think it needs to be standard in any way.
With
certainly at this level, at this point.
Process area director hat on, I need to double check whether it's within charter scope.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a good thing to write up anyway. So write it up and we'll decide whether it's in scope for the working group, whether we want to do a small tweak to the charter or just process it as individually. So I think that's...
We have it now as a extended IMAP command, which is apply this set of changes to the mailbox. They're required to be compatible with the IMAP data model. But it's just, it allows you to do things like specify the UID of a message.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so it is as a IMAP extension. Oh, okay. All right. As opposed to entirely new, fine. I think that shouldn't be objectionable then. All right.
That's everything that's there, and that's everything that anyone's asked me to talk about. The Meet Echo people are very quiet. The rooms, everyone's got their heads down looking at their laptops. Oh, hello. You're up.
I asked about the CIF email address internationalization. It's a topic that came up at our side.
Yep.
So the thing is, CIF doesn't currently do anything with that. And the question is, do we want to address that in this working group?
I guess there's two questions. Do we want to address it at all, and do we want to address it straight away?
This is Barry. I certainly think we should wait until the other documents settle down.
I agree.
But do we want to address it? Do we have the knowledge to do it here? I see John is on Jabber, or is on Meet Echo. So there's John and me. I don't know who else here is very familiar with EAI, but John and Pete in the room. So yeah, I guess we have a critical mass of people with EAI clue. Yes, we should definitely have a look at it, but not until we deal with the rest of the document.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, my suggestion is if you can start a draft under your personal name first, and Barry happy to co-author, and let's have a look how it looks.
Okay.
Cool.
Just, I think a lot of things we discussed before this point, they are relatively trivial tweaks, or this one is going to be probably slightly more involved, just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
But that's not the reason not to do it, of course. Okay. John agrees that we should do it here.
Okay. So the next step is to put together that draft, and then I guess maybe by London we'll be ready to start looking at new documents. Does anybody have anything else? I've just left you on, Stefan, because there's nobody else asking to be in a meet echo, so you're still in the room.
You may sing.
I have a green button to turn you off. Unfortunately, I don't have one for the people in the room.
So we can sing.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. I believe we're done. The blue sheet's made its way around the room, has it?
One of the smart people to make sure that I got all the notes right. That went awfully quickly.
All right, thank you.
Oh, what?
Well, can somebody relate? Does not feel with us that UTFA would make this group part of the impediment to deployment crowd.
It doesn't need to be repeated online.
Okay.
Right.
No consensus to relate.
I am going to pull the plug. Done.
Birdie. I'm stuck.
Not yet, but I can find one. Someone else has done it. Yep. Yep.
Everybody else on the side.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, that'd be good.
Sorry, I was waiting.
In the general direction of posture. All right.
Like you said, you're interested in co-chair.
What's your
We have a outlook for the EI.
Okay.
So separately of EI.
Cool.
Can I just say
I'm in an online argument. This will be the perfect response. Yeah, I go for a smile. All right. Eric, take this on that session.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Experience.
Well,
He's been drinking already.
Yes.
Yeah.
My caffeine levels are not up to snuff.
Yeah, it tends to